We're going to invite Tony to come forward again. Tony, he has a wife, Erin, and is it 2 children who are very sedate? Maybe not quite. But anyway, we're just glad that God has blessed you in that way. And I know Tony way back, actually, and we won't go how far back. But one of the things he used to do was Outflow, and which is a men's hostel in Waterloo Street. And now he feels called to the St. John Mission of Seafarers, and that is a mission that's after my heart as well. And so, Tony, we welcome you up here and give thanks to the Lord for you. God bless you.
Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to begin by thanking you. I've been with the Seafarers Mission now for 2 Christmases, and both of those Christmases, Kevin has called me and brought down many gifts for us to give to seafarers that are coming into Port St. John. So this year, we had set the goal of serving 10 ships with gifts, and we actually were able to serve 14 ships by providing gifts to seafarers at 14 different ships. And you guys played a significant part in that, so thank you very much. Thank you also for the invitation to speak. As Kevin said, I'm relatively new still in this position. I'm sort of establishing myself with churches around the community. And the very first time I spoke at a church with the Seafarers Mission was my home church, and my family was there. And you would think this would be the most sympathetic audience that you could have. We had 2 services, and I wasn't delivering the sermon. I was part of the mission moment, and I went on the stage. My kids had actually never seen me on a stage before, and they met me. I did my talk. They met me at the bottom of the steps, and were quite excited. And for the second service, my wife was teaching Sunday school, and our older daughter Gwen wanted to go to Sunday school immediately, which made perfect sense. But our younger daughter Nora, for whatever reason, wanted to hear Daddy speak again. And my wife was in Sunday school, so I looked around. I found my brother-in-law sitting there, and I went over and I sat her down with him. And I said, "Can you just stay with Nora while I'm speaking, and then I'll run her back to Sunday school?" And sure. And so I go up on stage. I'm giving my talk, and out of the blue, my brother-in-law stands up and takes my daughter out the back door. And there is nothing you can do in these moments. Like, it's just you're trusting him to know what he's doing. And I finished my talk. I go and I sit down next to him, and I said, So what happened? And he said, "Well, I thought I should get her out of the room when she stood up and announced how boring you were." My brother-in-law has not come with me this morning. So if anybody does think I'm boring, just you'll have to escort yourself out of the room, I guess. I would like to read Psalm 107, or from Psalm 107, starting at verse 23. And we'll end at verse 32. So Psalm 107, 23, 32. Some went out to the sea in ships. They were merchants on the mighty waters. They saw the works of the Lord, his wonderful deeds in the deep. For he spoke and stirred up a tempest that lifted high the waves. They mounted up to the heavens and went down to the depths. In their peril, their courage melted away. They reeled and staggered like drunkards. They were at their wits' end. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he brought them out of their distress. He stilled the storm to a whisper. The waves of the sea were hushed. They were glad when it grew calm, and he guided them to their desired haven. Let them give thanks to the Lord for this unfailing love, and his wonderful deeds for mankind. Let them exalt in the assembly of the people, and praise him in the council of the elders. Psalm 107, so these verses are part of a larger salvation poem. So Psalm 107 shows God as a rescuer, or as a life giver, or somebody who saves us. Some of the groups that are identified in Psalm 107 are people who have done something, and they need to be rescued from their own bad decisions. And some of the people in Psalm 107, like the seafarers here, are people who are out in the world and are surrounded by chaos that isn't something that they've created, and they still need to be rescued by God. We, within the Seafarers Welfare Centers, really like Psalm 107 because what it does is it shows that seafarers, the people we serve, are actually top of mind for God. They get specific mention in the Bible as people who God is rescuing. So Psalm 107 stands out very well to us. When we do look at the passage, depending on which translation you're using, you may see that it says merchants. And merchants, in this case, means seafarers. Seafarer is a fairly new word. Recently, we would have called them seamen. And just before that, we would have called them the merchant marines. And the merchant marines would have been the title within a lot of people in this room's lifetime. So there's a retired seafarer that comes to visit us at times in the summer, and he still talks about his days as a merchant marine. So God has a special concern for people working on the water, and that's why the St. John Seafarers Mission is here. However, we're not going to understand what the St. John Seafarers Mission or any Seafarers Mission does unless we understand who a seafarer is. And we're not going to understand who a seafarer is unless we understand a little bit about shipping. So I'm not able to tell you an encyclopedic knowledge of, or the history of shipping or anything like that. But I do want us to remember three things which will help us understand a little bit more about what we're doing. So shipping is crucial to our day-to-day lives. It is very difficult to think of something that wasn't on a ship. So when I was preparing for this morning, I was sitting at a chair in front of my desk. I had a computer open. I was typing away on my computer. There were lights on above me. I had my cell phone sitting there, and I was listening to some music through Spotify. So I would, when I write, I like to have some background music, so that was happening. I had a banana beside me for a snack, and I had a cup of coffee with some cream in it. And that is a weird amount of detail to give you about my writing process. Except, every one of those items, except the cream in my coffee, had been on a ship in whole or part at one point or another. My computer would not exist in front of me without shipping. Bananas do not grow in New Brunswick, so we would not eat those without shipping. Coffee, again, does not grow in New Brunswick, so we would not eat that or drink that without shipping. The lights were not made here, shipping. The desk, shipping. All of these things were involved with shipping. It would actually be much easier much harder to come up with a product that doesn't involve shipping in one way or another. There was a book written 15-ish years ago by a BBC journalist named Rose George, and she titled the book 90% of Everything. And one of the sea captains asked her, "Why are you writing this book?" And she said, "Because shipping is so crucial to my day-to-day life, and I have no idea anything about it. I need to learn more about it." And the title 90% of Everything came because she estimated that about 90% of everything is on a ship at one point or another. The second thing I want us to remember about shipping or know about shipping is that it is very dangerous. So when we're looking at the psalm, it talks about the waves becoming mountains and valleys, which is a nice, lovely poetic image when we think about mountains and valleys around, when we think big hills. But when we're going to different valleys in New Brunswick or the tops of hills, they don't move. They're just there. We don't have to really worry about all of a sudden the mountain that we're on becoming a valley. And that is not true on a ship. When the waves move, the waves move. So it is a part of their day-to-day life. Shipping has become much safer. The ships are much stronger, and technology is a lot better now than it was 3,000 years ago when the psalm was written. But the water is still going to do what the water is going to do. Mental health and isolation are a big deal for seafarers. They are going onto ships usually for about 5 months at a time is how long their contract will be, so they'll be separated from their families for quite a while. And they're going port to port, and that's why there's Seafarers Missions or some of our partner organizations around all of the different ports. So we can have some sort of connection with seafarers to let them know that somebody cares about them. Piracy is an issue, and we hear pirate and we think Jack Sparrow. I just know that's what we do. We're thinking Disney movies, the Pirates of the Caribbean, and that is not what piracy looks like now. Think more Captain Phillips, the Tom Hanks movie. We're in a fortunate spot in St. John, so we're on a circle that would roughly go from some of the Western European countries, Spain, Italy, England, across to North America, so St. John, Halifax, Montreal, Boston, Houston, into the northern part of South America, and then across again to the northern part of Africa. And that would sort of be the circle that people are going in. And there's not piracy in that area, which is good news for our seafarers. However, some of our seafarers will have worked in other parts of the world at times, so piracy can very well be top of mind for them, and is certainly top of mind for seafarers that we aren't serving. Piracy is still a thing. And some ships can actually still be a problem as well. Again, very rare here. Ports are responsible to make sure that ships are safe for seafarers when they're coming into dock. And Port St. John is an excellent port, and all of the other ports that are on this circle are very good, excellent ports as well. So they're making sure that people are taken care of. But the ships can still be a problem at times, and we're supposed to be sort of on the lookout for potential issues. The third thing about shipping is that it's nearly invisible to us. So I've told you how crucial it is, but it's crucial without us really thinking about it at all. This is called sea blindness. So it just means that we're blind to the way of the sea. We don't see what's happening with the sea. And I think the best way to describe sea blindness is by talking about Amazon. Am I the only Amazon Prime member here? Are there other Amazon Prime people? I'm it, okay. One of the main selling features for Amazon Prime is that every Monday night there's an NHL hockey game. And on Thursday nights they do clips of other different hockey games. And they use this as a marketing tool, but the biggest deal about Amazon Prime is the free shipping. So when we were Christmas shopping, there were a couple of items we couldn't get locally. So we ordered our kids something on Amazon, and they were shipped to us for free. And until I started working with seafarers who worked on ships, it never once occurred to me that shipping, the free shipping from Amazon, had anything to do with the ship. I just thought shipping was a random word that just meant stuff coming to my front door. But actually, ships are quite heavily involved with shipping. So those are the three things. So one, it's crucial to our daily lives. Two, it can be quite dangerous. And three, it is nearly invisible to us. So who then does all of that work that is essential, that is dangerous, and is crucial? Those people are seafarers. So those are people who work on the sea. So anybody who works on any type of marine vessel would be a seafarer. That would go from captain all the way down to deckhand. But normally when we say the word seafarer, we're referring to somebody who works sort of a forgotten job on the ship. We certainly will serve officers if they come to us for help, but most of our focus and most of the people we work with would be not officers, so people that work in other roles on the ships. Seafaring is a service-oriented job that is oftentimes overlooked. So they are, if you're driving through downtown St. John, you can't miss the ships. They're giant, they're colorful, they have a lot of containers on them, or they're down at the potash terminal having potash poured into them, or they're bringing oil to the refinery. There's no way to miss these ships if you're in front of them. But the seafarers, they're a lot harder to see. So seafarers are the invisible part of an invisible industry. There are around 1.89 million active seafarers working today. So if we think about all of the population of New Brunswick, if you double that and then add about 30% more, that is how many seafarers are working while we're sitting here. Seafarers take stuff around the world. They make our lives better. We had a seafarer tell our former chaplain, Eric, he asked, why do you do this work? And he said, well, I'm meant to be on the sea. There's things over here that need to be over here, and it's my job to get them there. So our lives would look dramatically different, if not for seafarers. So remembering all of this, I would like to again read from Psalm 107. Some went out on the sea in ships. They were merchants on the mighty waters. They saw the works of the Lord, his wonderful deeds in the deep. For he spoke and stirred up a tempest that lifted high the waves. They mounted up to the heavens and went down to the depths. In their peril, their courage melted away. They reeled and staggered like drunkards. They were at their wits' end. They cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he brought them out of their distress. He stilled the storm to a whisper. The waves of the sea were hushed. They were glad when it grew calm, and he guided them in their desired haven. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for mankind. Let them exalt him in the assembly of the Lord and praise him in the council of the elders. So now when I read Psalm 107, and I'm thinking about the tempest, when I'm thinking about peaks and valleys, when I'm thinking about courage melting, when I'm thinking about people stumbling around like drunkards, I'm not thinking about sort of generic people. I'm thinking about individuals who I have met. Individuals who, are coming to Port St. John regularly and then going to Italy or somewhere 10 days later. So they become very real very quickly. So how does the St. John Seafarers Mission help seafarers, and why do we do it? The best way to describe the mission is a ministry of hospitality. So we are doing our best all the time to say yes, or if we can't say yes ourselves around some things that we just don't have the authority to do, we figure out who can say yes to them and try to make that connection for them. We really want our seafarers to feel like they're home when they're with us. We can't replicate home. We can't, be their families. We can't do all sorts of things that happen at home for them. But we can give them a bit of a home away from home. So when they come to St. John, they can look forward to having a space that is theirs. We want them to feel welcome when they're with us. We want them to be acknowledged when they're with us. And we want to make sure that they're seen when they're with us. Sometimes this is doing physical things like, being there, being present. Sometimes it's making sure if we get a message on WhatsApp that we're responding to them and letting them know that, we're here and we're going to be able to do something for you. So it can happen in lots of different ways. It does become a bit of a challenge, though. The technology is getting a lot better, which is good in many ways. But what that does do is it means that the time that they're at shore is becoming much shorter. So as the technology gets better and shipping becomes more efficient, they're able to get from port to port much quicker. Pardon me, but the seafarers, when they're at an individual port, so St. John, wherever, they're not at dock as long. Sometimes what they do want during these short visits will seem very, very simple, and I'll tell you a few things that they are, and they're going to seem quite simple, but they actually can be quite profound, and I'll tell you why they're profound. And then what I'll do is I'll provide a few suggestions on how you can help us with doing this profound type work. Oftentimes, the very first thing a seafarer will ask when they arrive is for a password for our internet. And we provide free internet for seafarers. Why they want the password for the internet is not so they can watch something on YouTube or Netflix. It's because they haven't talked to their kids or their spouses or their parents or whoever in several days, possibly several weeks. So one day, I arrived at the mission. I get there at about 9. I have a little bit of time before shore leave will start for seafarers, so I can get coffee made. I can make sure everything has to happen, that has to happen. But this day, there was a seafarer waiting for me outdoors before I got to work that morning, and you could tell he was twitching. He was ready to get inside. So I unlocked the door, I turned off the alarm, come on in. And he ran over, he got our Wi-Fi password, then he started combing his hair, which is not how most of my days start. He sat down just at a chair and a table just across from my desk, so, about me to Kevin, a distance away. And his phone starts to buzz, and then I hear some giggling, and he's talking a little bit of English with the person on the other end of the phone, and he says, "Why are you up so late?" And I hear a little girl's voice that comes out and says, "Because today's the day I get to talk to you, Daddy. Mom let me stay up past my bedtime." That internet password in that moment seems incredibly deep and incredibly profound, because that seafarer got to do something I get to do nearly every night. He got to say goodnight to his daughter. Another thing that seafarers want is just somewhere to unwind, relax, just have it. They're working all the time when they're on ships. Even when they're not working, when they're on the ship, they're still on the ship. It's just imagine if your whole life was in your workplace all the time. So it's a good spot that we provide just to unwind. And there was a woman there that it was her first time, I believe, in Canada. And while she was there, she looked out the window and it was snowing quite heavily. And I thought, oh, I'm gonna have to go shovel the steps off. What she thought was, look at this. And she ran outside, she called her parents and started showing them the snow. And she took the shovel that I usually use to shovel the steps and dug it up into the ground and threw the snow up in the air. So her parents could watch what it was like for her to experience this first snowfall that she has seen. And I started to feel a little bit guilty about grumbling about the snow that was coming. We will also provide just a spot, not just to unwind, but a spot to just be, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, to just exist, to not have to think about anything. So we do this with coffee, we do this with sweets, the same way when you unwind or when you want to just exist, just relax, that's what we're doing. We have couches at the Seafarers Mission, and one day we had 2 ships at the same time with shore leave, which is rare. You'll see 3 ships at times at dock, but their shore leave, it's not by design, just by happenstance, is usually staggered. But one day 2 ships, for whatever reason, had shore leave at the same time, and the building was full. And a seafarer walks in, and he looks around. I said, "Hey man, do you want some coffee or anything like that?" And he said, "No." And fortunately, there was a seat left on our couch, and he just sat down. He said, "I just want to sit. I like your couch, it doesn't vibrate." And then it occurred to me that every second this guy is on a ship, he's moving. Even if it's tied off, the waves are doing what the waves are doing. The motors are going always. There's always some sound, there's always some motion, all of the time in this guy's life. So in that moment, what we did is we provided him with a bit of stillness. The last thing we want to do with seafarers is celebrate with them. And this is new. I was told there were going to be days like this, but I didn't actually experience one until a few weeks ago. A seafarer came in, and some of his colleagues wanted to go shopping at Walmart. So I called a cab for 3 or 4 of them, and they all left. And I said, "Are you going with them?" And he said, "No, I'm going home today. St. John's my last port of call, and I'm going to get on a plane. And I'm not going to Walmart because I'm not going to risk my car ride to the airport." And then I thought, oh, that's great. Like, going home is always something to celebrate again. They're away for 5 months, usually at a time. So going home is always a celebration time. So he's sitting there, and then he looks up and he sees on my desk, there's a picture of my kids. And he says, "Are these your girls?" And I said, "Yes." And he took out his phone and he said, "Going home is going to be different this time because my wife was pregnant when I boarded the ship. And when I go home, I'm going to meet my son." And then he showed me a picture of his son. And in that moment, we got to celebrate with this man the birth of his son, the way you would celebrate the birth a child with any of your friends. And it was a different sort of day. Did not expect that I would see a picture of a newborn that day and see a father that was rushing to get home as quickly as possible, or as eager as possible to meet his son for the first time. So we're here to celebrate with Seafarers as well. So this is my how can you help type thing. So again, I want to reiterate my thanks to you for providing the gifts to Seafarers. I was pleasantly surprised this year with how many ships we were able to serve. Like I said, we served 7 last year, which was, took a lot of effort. This year we wanted to do 10, and we actually hit 14. So I believe the gifts that were brought with you was ship number 12, I believe. So it was an exciting time for us. We were able to serve container vessels, potash vessels, and some of the crude ships, which was sort of hitting all of the different types of ships that come to St. John. So thank you again for that. Throughout the year, we're not giving Christmas gifts throughout the year, obviously, because it's not Christmas, but we do like to have snacks, drinks, things like that on hand for seafarers. So we have what's called a free snack rack. It became free in February of this year because until then we were sort of doing a cost recovery, so we would buy things and seafarers would buy them from us. And it turned out that it was a lot of extra work to do cost recovery for these things, and then we didn't really feel like we were serving seafarers well by doing it that way. So we decided to just give the items away for free. They are free for seafarers, but they're not free for us. I need to go to the stores and purchase those things. So if you're ever wondering how you can help seafarers if it's not Christmas time, you can look on our website and find the donate button, and there's a fund called Snack Rack. And what that does is that lets us go out and buy snacks for seafarers. The other way that you can help, there's a physical distance between us and the port where we are this morning. However, prayer is not dependent on proximity. So our seafarers are regularly looking for people to pray for them. We have a small chapel in our space, and seafarers will often go in there and have some quiet alone time to pray. But they're also telling us about ways that we can pray for them. So if we can remember our seafarers, times of safety in particular, this time of year, I will oftentimes get messages that the ship has been delayed coming into St. John because of weather. 2 weeks ago, we had 3 ships that were delayed by weather all at the same time. So it went from being not busy at all to being incredibly busy when they all arrived. But if we can remember seafarers year-round, but especially this time of year, when the weather is going to be a real factor in their lives, when their captain is watching the charts and trying to figure out where's the best spot for us to just stop so we can avoid the storms, if we can pray for them. If we can pray for them during their times of isolation, it is a real thing. The ships, if you're driving through uptown St. John and see them, they look gigantic because they're gigantic. They're getting bigger. We've got new cranes and bigger ships can come in. And I've been on a couple of them that are they're monumental. But when you're in the middle of the ocean, the giant ship becomes your entire world, and it gets much, much smaller. So if we could pray for seafarers when their entire world is on a ship in the middle of the ocean and they're feeling isolated. And if we could pray for other types of safety for seafarers as well. It is a dangerous job in a lot of ways. They're working in a moving industrial site, for lack of a better term. So all of the workplace safety that we think about in any other type of job like that. So hard hats, goggles, all that type of stuff is needed. So if we could pray for seafarers, physical safety as well, that would be greatly appreciated. So thank you very much for having me again. I am very happy to have shared with you this morning. I am happy to answer whatever questions people have afterwards. I will hang out, and do not feel embarrassed about asking anything. I've been asked lots of questions, and I will hopefully continue to be. And so I will be around and happy to chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony, for giving us a direction, understanding of what the ministry is doing